Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here and speaking on my favorite topic, which is next generation D2C and Omni-Channel Digital Experiences. A little bit about me. I am representing MACH Alliance as their ambassador. You probably have seen MACH Alliance have a stall right at the front. I'll introduce MACH Alliance in my presentation a little later. I've been their ambassador for past 3 years since they were founded in 2020. I'm also part of their advisory board for this year. But I don't work for MACH Alliance. That's not my day job. I do it because I'm passionate about it. My day job, I am a digital commerce architect. I do all things architecture. I used to be employed as a permanent architect in various companies. Mars was one of the last companies I worked for until last year. And now I work as an independent architecture consultant. So currently I'm consulting with a company called Zooplus. They are a German pet care online retailer. And they are undergoing digital transformation, so I'm helping them with that. So that's about me. Check me out on LinkedIn if you want to know more. Now, today's presentation I have based on digital marketing. I believe digital marketing is an integral part of D2C, just as digital commerce. And the principles are the same, similar, whether you are looking at digital marketing or digital commerce. The presentation is in 3 parts. I like to take a trip down the memory lane and see how digital marketing evolves, so we will look at that. Then we'll look at what's multi-channel, which was our recent past, and what's omni-channel, which is the here and now, as well as the future of D2C. And of course, as an architect, I would explain how the architectures have evolved to support our future of omni-channel. Right, so looking at the history, we all know that in 1990s, internet was founded, invented, whatever you want to call it, and that's what was the birth of digital marketing. But do we know what was happening before that in the marketing area? So if you step back right into AD 79, the times of Pompeii, then they have found evidence that there have been messages etched onto doorways and exterior walls, extolling virtues of wealthy and influential individuals. So that's a form of marketing the politicians or the wealthy people in the city. So marketing goes back to the era of Pompeii. Then if you move to ancient China, they used to prepare advertising banners using different material like fabric and have somebody playing flute, so have the sound-based advertising as well. The next milestone in marketing happened when there was a printing press that was invented around 15th century, and that opened a whole new era of printing on different media, including newspapers, magazines, packaging, and so on. The next big milestone was when the arrival of radio and TV. And we are all familiar with, or most those who are of my age, they are familiar with the advertising jingles that we used to hear at prime time on radio and TV. They were integral part of our lives and still are. And of course, then we moved into digital marketing. Now, looking at digital marketing, there are 3 distinct phases in digital marketing. The first phase is the early phase, just after the internet was formed, where we just had the internet, we had the email going, we probably had a web-based channel. We used to log into our PCs or whatever devices we had, and the focus was just to make the user experience as intuitive as possible. So it was very rudimentary and basic. It's almost a single channel digital marketing that we had. Let's fast forward to approximately early 2000. 2007, around that time, and then we suddenly switched to always-on era, where mobile devices were invented, social platforms like Facebook were formed, and then suddenly digital marketing became an real-time, always-on type of activity. So this led to, from single channel, now we are going into multi-channel, where we had mobile, we had our web, but now we also have mobile and social media platforms. And then around, the timescales are approximate. So 2015, 2016 onwards, there has been plethora of emerging technologies, which has given rise to a lot of innovations. And that emerging technologies, the list of emerging technologies is ongoing. It hasn't stopped really. We also had infinite data, exponential amount of data to sift through and analyze. So both the data and technology exploded on the scene beyond 2016, and that is still going on. So this is the era of omni-channel. So if you look at the three phases, you have a single channel, multi-channel, and the omni-channel. So that's how the digital marketing has evolved as the technology has evolved. Right, so that was about the evolution of digital marketing, but what is omni-channel and multi-channel? What are the key differences between the two? I take multi-channel as a recent past, or maybe it is here and now, and omni-channel, as I said, is definitely our future, and for some, it is the here and now. There are a number of differences. The first and foremost, multi-channel is very much product-focused. It's pushing the product, whereas omni-channel is about addressing consumer needs. And you wouldn't be surprised that many organizations are still in the product era. They're pushing the product. I've got product, I'm manufacturing product, I need to get rid of my stock. That's how the marketing works. Whereas what we need to do is focus on the consumer needs. So that's a basic fundamental difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. Company needs driven, consumer needs driven. The second point I made is, in digital marketing, you run point-to-point campaigns. You don't care about what the experience, you run a campaign, you don't really care about what happens after you have run the campaign. So there is no focus on end-to-end consumer journey, customer journey. So that's a basic difference. In omni-channel, you always have to focus on what happens after you run that campaign. Next two sets of points is, omni-channel, in principle, you give same experience across all channels that are available to the consumer to interact with you. Whereas in multi-channel, it's very discrete. You can pick and choose whatever is easy for you, whatever you want to do, you'll pick that channel. You might pick email and forget about pushing the same message through web or mobile, for example. Whereas in omni-channel, you need to make sure that you're pushing the same message across email, across mobile, across web, and so on. So that's, again, difference. Another one that is, as a technologist, it has been a bane of my life, is disconnected experience. We build silos. We build silos of logic. We build silos of data. And then as an architect, I would get asked to connect those silos. So why build the silos in the first place? Those silos are what give the customer disconnected experience. So let's break down the silos. And that's what omni-channel is about. Don't build silos and try and connect them. It's never going to work. Don't build the silos in the first place. And the last two sets of points. Multi-channel, it was all about outreach. Just let me push my message, marketing message, to as many people as I can find, I can reach. So that was about outreach. We didn't care about what the impact it has on the customer or the consumer. Whereas in omni-channel, it is very much, we are all used to the words personalization. It's a one-to-one engagement. It's understanding individual needs and responding to that, as opposed to just pushing the same message to multitude of people and audience. The last one, which is actually not that bad, is real-time versus slow. So in multi-channel, the marketing, let's say you're running a discount, but you wouldn't give that discount to a consumer when the event is about to happen. Let's say a consumer is in the vicinity of a physical store and you're running a discount. So you need to tell that consumer about that discount there and then when he or she is standing in front of the store or on the internet browsing for that particular product. There's no point in pushing that discount to that consumer after the event has happened. And that is because the technology was slow. We didn't have real-time technology. So you'll take the data, then churn it, and then push that message maybe a week down the line, which probably the impact is lost. So I think that real-time versus having slow, that makes a massive difference. And to be honest, that's something which we do rather well now. So this is multi-channel, omni-channel. You probably are aware of these differences, but those who are working in this area, it's always worth taking a step back and thinking about whatever you're doing, does it fit the omni-channel model, or am I still pushing and staying in the multi-channel world? As long as you're clear about why you're doing what you're doing and aligning to the model that you want to, your company is following, that's what this is about. It's not about that you have to be omni-channel, but you have to understand what you're doing. This is my favorite, concept. I have worked in marketing, sales, and service. If you look at the traditional model, what we do is marketing, sales, and service, they are discrete. They will say, yes, we are all consumer focused. Marketing is consumer focused, so is sales, and so is service. But they are individually focused on the consumer. They give discrete experience. Marketing is not thinking about what happens once they have converted the lead. Sales doesn't think about once the sales is complete, what are we doing to that consumer? And this I face all the time in my professional life, working in companies, and as a consumer, which annoys me to no extent, because everybody says, that's not my job, you go and ask another team. So I think that consumer engagement model has to change. We have to, the companies who are working in this customer-focused area, they need to think about, marketing needs to think about whatever they are saying, is the sales following that up? The sales needs to think, whatever they're selling, what's the after-sales service? And service has to think about what has been told to the consumer and so on. So it's a circular model, consumer sitting in the center, as opposed to handing over linearly one after the other. And that, again, is the next generation D2C. I expect the overlap to be bigger and bigger. So we should not have marketing, sales, and service as separate. It should be direct to consumer, end of story. And if you think about how your experiences as a consumer, the digitally native brands do that model very well. And they do it efficiently with less resources, less, investment and so on, because they are focused on just keeping the consumer at the center. But the bigger the organization and the older it is, they struggle to get that model right. They are still working in the traditional model. But that's a fundamental difference when you're working with traditional stroke, multi-channel, and the next generation D2C. This is, again, a visualization about multi-channel, how it looks. It's very discrete versus omni-channel, where the consumer, it's reinforcing the point that you have to think always about the consumer. There are so many channels across. You may not have all the channels active at a given point of time. Maybe you just have 2 or 3. But it's reinforcing the point that don't push to the customer without thinking about what the impact on the consumer is. So it's reinforcing that consumer centricity, which is the hallmark of omni-channel. Now I gave an overview of how digital marketing has evolved. There were 3 phases. talked about difference between omni-channel and multi-channel, where omni-channel is about giving the same consistent experience across all channels to the consumer. That's fine. Those are the two messages that I wanted to give in the first few slides. But end of the day, I'm an architect, so I work with architectures. So how the architectures have evolved to support the omni-channel vision. Again, let's step back into the time, early 1990s, when the internet was born. And I put here, this is how the enterprise architectures used to look. So at the right below, you had legacy enterprise system of record. SAP was there. I think it has been there forever, probably. So we had an ERP, but it had no connection with anything that was serving the front office. It gave rise to e-commerce platforms, and I put web CMS because that's marketing traditionally, and commerce is commerce. The front end and back end were fused together, and that's a monolith. So that's an e-commerce monolith. That's a CMS monolith. So monolith means the front end and the back end is all fused together. There is no separation. And that monolith, it's like I call the analogy of one pot meal. That means everything, it does a little bit of everything. There is no separation of function, and the front end and the back end is fused. So we had e-commerce monolith. We had web CMS invented in that era using the technology that was prevalent how many years ago? More than, now it's nearly 30 years ago. That's what they did. It served the purpose then. It was sufficient, because if you remember the slides that the second slide, we just knew about single channel. We didn't know anything else. So it was sufficient then. The technology, whatever was there, they used it and built it. So that's fine. No connection with backend. Then let's move to the era where we had mobile coming in, we had social media platform coming in. Not only that, we had other things coming in, like this is not complete. We had loyalty platforms, marketing automation. We had so many different bits and pieces coming on the scene now. But what happened to the e-commerce? Those platforms continued. Maybe they changed something. They didn't reinvent themselves completely. There was plugging in of some functionality, changing the reskinning and so on, but the core technology remained the same. The web CMSs started to call themselves DXP, Digital Experience Platform. Again, the core technology has not changed. So fundamentally, they were built in 1990s. They continue to have that core foundation even in 2000. And everybody was struggling to accommodate everything else that was happening on the technology scene, including connecting with your backend systems and so on. I've just got 5 minutes, so I need to rush through. So this is where we actually started working with Composable, but in a very haphazard manner. Moving on to the current era, this is what is using microservices, headless technologies. There is a structure there. The commerce platform is just doing commerce. The back-end and front-end is separated. So it becomes a multi-layered, multi-system, headless platform, which is what is absolutely right to serve the omni-channel vision, or realize the omni-channel vision and serve the consumer. I'm just running out of time, so I'm going to rush now. I said I'll introduce MACH Alliance. So MACH is, that's an acronym. It was formed in 2020, and there are product vendors and system integrators who implement MACH technologies, especially in digital commerce and D2C area. And they have some enablers also, like AWS, Google Cloud are also members. It's a not-for-profit organization. So that's about MACH, and I happened to come across them in 2020, and I agreed to be their ambassador. I would like to end with this quote, and the reason for this quote is, if you look at sales, service, and marketing, traditionally service and sales leaders. I'm talking about the business part of business teams in your organization, not the IT teams. They have been very technology savvy. They have been adopting technologies as they come along, at least be aware of them. But when it comes to marketing, marketing folks in most organizations, in my experience, and the experience of the former CEO of CMO of MasterCard, they haven't been embracing technology as much. They prefer handing it over to somebody without like agencies or third parties. But this is an ask that if you want to succeed in digital marketing, then understand the technologies that are fueling the digital marketing today. Understand the data. Data is important. Data analysis is important. And that's what will enable you to become consumer-centric. And that's the ask, that have an understanding. You don't have to know how to do it, but you need to understand what it does and why you should have it. That's all. I probably have a couple of minutes for questions. Any questions? I'm sorry for rushing. I just lost track of time. I'm okay. I got 5 minutes. Anybody wants me to go back to a slide? Happy to do that. Okay. All right.
It was really interesting, thank you. Just a quick question on the one-to-one and personalization. That's obviously something everyone's interested in. I guess the consumers are so complex. How would you, and obviously going by the data, like you said, is a good place to start, but how would you go about actually executing it when consumers are so complex in this day and age and touching across so many channels? Because if you can't, if you can't reach them and if you don't have the budget to spend across all media channels, how would you go about approaching it in a one-to-one personalization way?
Okay, so this question to repeat was about how do we make one-to-one personalization achievable? So I think there are technologies like, for example, search and recommendation. I happen to know they collect data, and then the customers, as they come and browse, and they collect from social media and so on. So, and they of course have AI embedded features, and that helps you to get an understanding at an individual customer level. So it's collecting the data that is shared, aka social media platforms, and the data that you have from your own websites, your own channels. Churn it, apply AI to it. Nowadays it's there. That helps you to do it. You will also have analytics down below. I've said data lake analytics. So that's little latency. It's not real time, but you get that. It's collecting data.
Hi. Would you say about these slides, can you hear me? Hello. All right. Would you say about this slide, would you say is a maturity journey in the sense that all companies will evolve toward composable, or even in the future we will have companies that will be better off with extended monolith, for instance?
So there is a personal view and an observation. So if you see, the reality is that there are probably companies which are still doing this. The middle one is not my favorite model, but that's what is prevalent today. Extended monolith is a nightmare. I've been there, done it, and I don't want to go back there. It does not work. It will collapse on you at some point of time. But organizations need to become mature to understand that and go towards composable. Composable and MACH are two different things. You can do composable without microservices. You can do composable with smaller monoliths. It's possible. It's a concept. You can do it hybrid microservices plus monolith, or you can do pure microservices. I firmly believe that microservices is the future. The companies who are, everybody, any retailer aspires to be Amazon. How did Amazon get there? My inspiration came from Amazon. They had a monolith, which they broke down and made into microservices. And that's how they have scaled themselves up. So I think those who are aspiring to be Amazon-like retailer, they will go down the MACH route. There's no other alternative. Extended monolith is just a halfway house solution. But it depends on what is your ambition, what is your maturity, where do you want to go. So extended monolith will continue to exist, but the right solution is the last one.
So considering you've shared with us a history of evolution, what would you consider to be number 4?
Number 4 is a good question. I was speaking yesterday and I was asked. This is again my vision, not necessarily any research, is we have AI coming to the forefront. Today, AI is embedded everywhere in the architecture. It's augmenting what we are doing. My vision is that AI, the fuel for AI is data. The more the companies democratize their data, the more the product vendors democratize their API or their documentation and so on. AI will form the backbone. We will almost have an AI's infrastructure layer. And that will somehow feature there in that architecture. MACH is going to be there because AI is just data and giving insights. So you need something to carry those insights and work with the consumer. So that application part of it will still be there. Okay. I'm out of time. Just come and grab me outside. Thank you.